If I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, I am someone that tries to practice the age-old saying that cool heads will prevail, and that includes sharing my thoughts and opinions on things going on in the life simulation gaming space. I have been waiting and refining my opinions on the Life by You graphics discussion because last week I felt like the Life by You community really kicked off, and it felt like a discussion that was very ripe to change at an instant. And boy, was I right to hold off on firing out a video right away. For those of you just discovering my channel, my little corner of the internet, my name is Michael, and I want to welcome you to Sovereign Gaming in Life Sims, the YouTube channel where I build worlds, lots, and share my thoughts on video games in the life simulation gaming space. In the spirit of being upfront with you guys watching, in the first part of this video, I'm going to focus on what was being discussed on the Life by You Reddit subthread and socials by the community, and how the pendulum of strong sentiments has shifted dramatically pretty much overnight. Actually, literally overnight. And then I'll finish off this video by sharing my thoughts and opinions on how the Life by You graphics look, specifically how the Life by You human characters are designed, since we are on the heels of the early access release come this March in 2024. Now, just a quick disclaimer before I go in. Perfect opinions simply do not exist. The language that I use are of my own, and I am not apologizing for presenting my thoughts and feelings as they are at this time on such a hot button topic for the Life by You community. I won't be pussyfooting around the topic at hand, and my channel has been a place where I strive for authenticity, not perfection. Perhaps there will come a time where I look back on this video or videos that I have published previously and have changed my tune. That is called growth. Besides, even though I am serious about the perfect opinion not existing, this is just a video game after all, and not that serious in comparison to everything going on in the world and what's happening in real life and all that jazz. I do, however, try to communicate my critiques respectfully. Hello everyone, this is just editor Michael piping in here to mention that before we jump into this video that I will periodically interrupt the pace of the video like I am doing now. I originally scheduled this video to publish on the 23rd of December, but since Life by You released their 2023 recap, my thoughts and feelings have changed quite a bit. I still feel like this video has some great points, but I also want to jump in like I'm doing now in order to share where my thoughts and opinions have changed and evolved. Don't worry, I will definitely cover the 2023 recap video released by the Life by You team in my December recap on my channel at a later time. But anyways, let's get back into the video. With that said, I want to start with observing what the community has been discussing for the past 2 weeks. Okay, they've been discussing it for much longer than the past 2 weeks, but it kicked up in intensity in roughly the last 2 weeks or so. And so for that discussion, I will quote a lot from the subreddit since that has the easiest to follow timeline for me. Now, I won't read out each subreddit discussion verbatim since that really wouldn't make for an interesting video, but I do want to start out by reading the subreddit thread from Comet Sims. Last night, I saw that the community was sent into a tailspin over a Life by You video on TikTok displaying LBs, causing an uproar with posts and or comments on how the game was going down the tubes, not leading up to people's expectations, pre-orders being cancelled, community feeling betrayed, and now suddenly everything is all right again. The dynamics are just so weird to me, seeing the harsh critiques that are on TikTok, being the LB's video, the subreddit feeling like Life by You is in a crisis situation, to everyone now having a jolly good time on the recent YouTube video. What happened? I'm genuinely bewildered. I too am genuinely bewildered, but also not surprised, if that makes any sense. Actually, now that I said it out loud, I don't think it does make any sense. I'm pretty sure that was an oxymoron. Oh well, I'm keeping it in. Why I'm not surprised is this is generally how the online life simulation community feels at times. I saw this kind of attitude, this kind of mentality, sudden shift happen multiple times throughout my time in the Sims communities, where I was in truth mostly lurking. I grew up being aware of the quote-unquote extreme nature of life simulation gamers online and how their sentiments really shift dramatically from one end to the other. And it's clear that this is technically a toxic behavioral pattern that has been passed down to new life simulation gamers, since it was something that I grew up with and I am myself considered an older gamer. Now, I'm not shaming or raining on anyone's parade for sharing their opinion, as free speech is certainly something that I do believe in. However, when online users are being insulting with their critiques and calling for people getting fired, that's where I start to see the disrespect. It doesn't mean that their critiques aren't warranted, it's just that it was communicated in a way that was disrespectful and distracting of the points that they were trying to make, if I'm going to be honest here. I think that one can be highly critical while also being respectful. That is my opinion on that anyways. Even though I am not here for the disrespect, I can forgive extreme opinions on life simulation games being expressed online, since we have all said something wrong in one way or another, and like I mentioned, it's a video game, guys. It's not that serious. However, the sharing of extreme opinions in a way that is usually perceived as being disrespectful is a common behavioral pattern that has existed within the life simulation community from The Sims 1. And now that we are aware of that pattern, we can now choose how to conduct ourselves with that awareness going forward. And yes, I think that the sudden shifts in attitudes towards the game is something that we need to be aware of. And another awareness we can add on to that is that people have been ripped off by EA and they have formed strong emotional attachments to the success of Life by You. Speaking of which, when it comes to analyzing the general sentiment of the online life simulation community, I understand that the extreme opinions are usually only expressed by a smaller number of individuals within the life simulation community. One of my reasons for making this statement is actually due to my channel. I feel like the folks that comment on my discussion videos are genuinely respectful, and I honestly believe that the users outside of my channel presenting those polarizing opinions in a disrespectful way only represents a small sample of the users. Like, I think it's kind of blown out of proportion in a certain way. Now, I have been describing some of these discussions as polarizing or extreme, but in truth, maybe they were just presented in an extreme way or in a polarizing way. Perhaps even unbeknownst to the user who wrote it, that they were communicating their opinion in a disrespectful way. I'll let you be the judge of that though. I will also say that the users who are initiating the perceived polarizing discussions on Reddit and TikTok do have a point, and I will get into that later on in this video. For now, I want us to get a lay of the land of what's being discussed with some of the following quotes that I'm going to parse from socials and all that. And for the following quotes that I'm choosing to share, I want to make it clear that the reason that I am sharing these quotes and discussions is that I feel like they have a very good point. I'm not trying to call out anybody here or trying to rain on someone's parade. I'm rather seeking the point that they have delivered, and trust me, like, the quotes that I have picked out from the bunch are very eloquently written for the most part anyways. So it's not like I'm purposely trying to parse some really extreme quotes out there on social. But anyways, if I think something is too extreme, polarizing, or disrespectful, I'll share that with you if I actually think that when I go to read these quotes. But I'm pretty sure that the ones that I chose here are actually very eloquently written, very respectfully expressed, and all that jazz. But anyways, let's get the lay of the land and let's just kind of see what's being discussed here. So, on Reddit, Snugrilla, Geshtiana SG, and Cute Fluffy Pup had the following conversation that I actually felt had a lot of really good points to it. So Snugrilla started off the conversation by saying, "Yeah, I don't understand why the characters still look so bad. I mean, this is supposed to be a life simulator, but the people seem to look worse than other games." Geshtiana SG then replied, "They look like characters made by programmers and not artists." Then Cold Tangerine 62 said, "Agreed, they look a lot worse than characters in other games, and on top of that, in life simulation, you are looking at your character 100% of the time, so this is a huge issue." And then Cute Fluffy Pup also said, "I'll still give them the benefit of the doubt even after all this time. I'm just wondering what they'll show in March at this point." Just to make myself clear, I don't think that this conversation was disrespectful in any way, shape, or form. I actually think that all of these users have very good points, and that they express those points in ways that are A, authentic, and B, actually respectful. So they're honest about what they had to say, and I honestly, yeah, I have no issue with the way that they had written these opinions of theirs, and I do absolutely agree with these users. And yeah, I find that the way that they expressed it to be objective, logical, and expressed respectfully. So yeah, everyone in this discussion had a really strong point in that the stars of the show, so to speak, are indeed the life simulation human characters themselves, and they do need to look good. I also want to add on to what Cute Fluffy Pup mentioned, in that the release date for Life by U's early access is slated for March 5th of 2024 so far. So it's not like Paradox has the entire month of March to really wow and amaze players, and their timeline for building hype really ends at the end of February, but that's just me being a little nitpicky. But let's continue getting the lay of the land of the discussions that were occurring. Be Prestigious 4919 ran a poll that had the majority of voters, 180 to be exact, think that the visuals and animations are what they have in stock and that the Life by You team doesn't have better visuals on hand. Now, I couldn't zoom out to get like the full text of the options there, so maybe that's just like a user error on my end there, so I do apologize for the crappy screenshot. But yeah, I'll get a little more into this towards the end of the video, but it isn't out of the ordinary for a gaming studio to work on a separate version of a game while parsing screenshots and video content from an older version. This is something that Rocio has mentioned in previous videos, in that she's working from an older version. However, I think that the team needs to be more clear on whether or not the recent videos are being filmed in that older version of the game, and when we'll get a good look at what the newer version is. Maybe I just kind of missed that in some of the latest Life by You videos, so if I'm wrong there, feel free to correct me in the comments below, I really don't mind. I'll expand more on my thoughts about Life by You's approach later on in this video though, but I did want to bring up this poll here because the data is, again, it's a sample from the subreddit, because the subreddit has thousands of users, and even though like 180 just were counted as voters in it, it is still like a sample from a larger population, and it does hold a little bit of weight. Actually, I'm going to expand more on this now. Since the release of Life by You's 2023 recap, I feel like I am missing out on a very crucial and important detail when understanding the experience us players will have for the early access version of the game. I do believe I may have mentioned this in previous videos, but I have definitely not emphasized it enough recently. So what am I talking about? Well, if we look at the language used by the Paradox Life by You team with the following comment, and I'll read it out loud here, we are continuing to work on characters and animations continuously up to and through early access. If you have specific feedback, please let us know. I haven't been paying too much attention to the language that was being used, and it really didn't dawn on me until their 2023 recap video that I wasn't emphasizing enough that early access in this context really means that the community will have an opportunity to play their game while it is still in development. I know it sounds basic, and you guys probably didn't come to this video to talk basic stuff here, but I think that I have been making the mistake of forgetting the foundation of this experience when discussing Life by You. Early access versions of a game can mean several different things, but one thing that I think that we can all agree on is that early access versions of a video game equates to it being incomplete. This kind of addresses a point that I made in my Where Life Simulations Get It Wrong set of videos, in that instead of letting the community fly by the seat of their pants with ideas that change into expectations, that this time players will really have an opportunity to provide feedback based on their gaming experience of Life by You while it is in production. It's a simple concept, I know, but it's something that I've really failed to highlight in my videos, and it's something that sits right in front of our faces, and if we look at their website, it even tells us straight up. So I'll read it out loud to you guys. So when asked like what is early access, it is explained on the website that early access is a pre-launch period where players will be able to play Life by You while it is still in development. We will be adding content, fixing bugs, and eagerly reading your feedback during this time. Do I think that the community has been a little hard on the character designs and graphics? Well, just a little. I still think that overall the community has got a strong point, but at the same time, players will be given an early access version should they choose to purchase it in order to give Paradox direct feedback based on their playing experience of the game as opposed to developing expectations from speculations. I hope that makes sense here, you guys. Again, we are not purchasing a game, but rather we are buying into an open beta to directly assist the team with developing Life by You. Now let's carry on with reading more comments on Reddit and more threads. In a satirical tone of voice, I think that Tater's post on Reddit summed things up, but I'll just read the end of the post though, since it was a much longer one. So it happened. You made your game into a meme, you didn't listen or truly acknowledge our constructive feedback, let alone implement it. You lied when you said you wanted to be transparent and that you wanted us to be involved. You invited the whole internet to laugh at your game and incompetence, and you made me not feel sorry anymore. Who else feels the same? With this post, I'm not the biggest fan of the tone of voice that they decided to use, but I feel like they really made some good points within their post, especially towards the end, which is why I decided to choose to read it. I will come out and say that I do think that it is a stretch to outright accuse the Paradox Life by You team of lying, and I am going to play devil's advocate here for just a quick second. So, their hands might be a little tied when it comes to showing better graphics in that the new version might not be stable enough to film. It's kind of like when you change one piece of code that inadvertently affects a bunch of other programs, breaking your system. I agree. A little more transparency or a bigger peek behind the curtain, so to speak, could go a very long way since we are hearing the same story over and over again about their graphics. But at the same time, these graphic improvements might have to be installed in small increments in order to converge smoothly with the new version that they're working on privately. Again, you guys, this is just me playing devil's advocate. Please don't shoot the messenger. I am in no way defending a gaming studio, rather I'm trying to understand all sides here. I also agree that when they release content that shows their Life by You human characters in the most unflattering ways, that it also makes the fanbase look bad. Whether we want to admit to it or not, we live in a world of aesthetics and short attention spans. It's one thing to promise the player base that the graphics are being worked on, but when that promise isn't being delivered on, then it makes the players the fools in the situation. And right now, players feel like they are being given the runaround. Or at least I think that they might be feeling that way. There was also an eloquently crafted open letter from RetroRed13. I've quoted them before, so hello RetroRed13, welcome back to my channel. You produce some great stuff, so I'm very happy to have you on my videos here. And so what I've done, you guys, is I've quoted RetroRed13's Reddit post below, and I will again choose to paraphrase their open letter since it was written very respectfully and impactfully, and it would just be a little too long for me to read out loud verbatim. Essentially, RetroRed13 explains in their open letter addressing Rocio that the character models are a huge problem, and my hand is actually forced here in that I have to agree with RetroRed13's open letter. So why is my hand forced? Well, I have very much practiced a wait and see attitude with Life by You. Yes, it's obviously the one life simulation game that I am most excited for because the potential seems nearly limitless, and the gameplay features aren't even being approached by its competitors in my opinion. However, since Life by You delayed their early access launch in September to March of 2024, part of the reason, from my understanding, was improving the quality of the game, including its graphics. Well, we are about 2 or 3 months, if I want to be generous, away from the early access launch in March, and I have admitted this in previous videos, but I honestly don't see much of an improvement in the graphics myself. In fact, I would go as far to say that the observations of graphic improvements are either very minimal or they are a symptom of confirmation bias. Even after the relationships video was released, I have to be honest, I'm not noticing a big jump of quality comparing that video with the cooking video for the graphics. Now for me, What was presented in the relationships video was fine in terms of graphics, but that's just me. And when I'm looking for the improvements, again, I'm just seeing it either being very minimal or I'm just not seeing it at all. Again, that is just me. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong things there. So again, you know what to do with that comment section if there's an observation that you would like to share. And like I mentioned earlier, the stars of the show in a life simulation game isn't the world or the lots. It is the simulated human characters. And if I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure how this video alone was able to ether the backlash, because I really just don't see the jump in quality for the graphics to null and void and single-handedly turn around the sentiment on the socials from that relationships video. But whatever, people have the right to change their minds, and I'm really not trying to criticize that at all. I'm just sharing an observation. It was a very quick pendulum swing if I ever saw one. Now, I'm really glad that Retro Red 13 still kept the same energy at the end of their open letter, because the character design is still very much on a journey. And even I, someone who has played the Let's Wait and See card, can see that as well. And with about 2 or 3 months until release, the public needs to be communicated what to expect come this March, and that I am hoping that that is going to be one of the priorities that the team has going forward in 2024. I also just want to jump in again and add that even though the Paradox Life by You team is promising an early access version by March 4th, it's still not guaranteed. Originally, the early access version was promised for September, and then it got delayed about 2 or 3 weeks before its original early access release date. I say this because I think that the priority for the Paradox Life by You team is to produce a stable video game that they can actually release to the general public, as opposed to focusing on refining the character design. Graphic improvements typically come last, and I think that the priority is a stabilized gaming experience. Based on the 2023 recap video, it does seem like Rod Humble was emphasizing that they were preparing the game for the public early access version, which to me seems like they are prioritizing making sure that the game doesn't crash on players. That's just my assumption though, and it is worth its own standalone video that I will analyze as part of my future December Life by You recap video to be released later on in January. I also wanted to share some observations with you guys regarding the TikTok video that set off the Life by You community, showing the different human characters. I've already covered a lot of the community discussion. I feel like I've covered really the best parts that has come about from it. So it's not like I'm trying to revisit those aspects of my observations, but I want to point out that what Life by You did on their TikTok. And yes, it is liking a comment that is asking people to calm down. So I am not one to ever defend a gaming studio or business, and if I was, please write that check. I'm also someone that doesn't believe in making a mountain out of a molehill, but sometimes when a misstep happens, it can't be ignored, and I have to authentically observe it. To the team handling the socials, firstly, why am I still able to pull up a screenshot of this when the video was published on December 11th? Secondly, unless you are evolving your brand voice to adopt more sassier tones like Burger King or McDonald's, then please just let this be your social media misstep to learn from. And to the social media team, please, you need to have some thick skin here. You've seen how quickly that pendulum swings with not only this community, but with the life simulation communities in general. Before I carry on, I just want to make a mention here that it does feel a little tacky to be giving out professional advice here. But, when something like this happens, when these missteps happen, if I'm going to continue to add an authentic voice to the discussion, I do have to observe it on my channel. So yeah, I understand that your hands are likely very tied when it comes to the content you have access to publish for public consumption, but you can't be taking anyone's feedback personally. And like you see in your own comments section on that TikTok video, those that believe in your product will come to defend you for you. You don't need to do anything more than that. We all have our moments being petty, but as a business brand, these kind of social media engagements will put a crack in building trust with your community. You see, it's not necessarily bad character design that is getting you into hot water with your community. In my opinion, it's more likely the lack of communication as to when players can expect a jump in graphic quality. I've already shared it earlier that in my opinion, I feel like there's a confirmation bias, or the graphic quality in the character design is just like minimally being built up, but that's just my opinion on that matter. And like users on Reddit have pointed out, players feel like they are being given the runaround. Feedback such as comments saying that the characters look like shit or whatever is not a personal attack, but actually fuel to be used to justify social media's impact on converting early access sales, building brand trust, and informing product development. As I consider myself like the average gamer here, the average Joe gamer. And if I'm not noticing the character design improvements, then, and if you guys are, and I'm speaking to the Life by You team here, why not compile a TikTok video that shows those graphic improvements with one single Life by You human character? Because that would help to silence that story quite quickly there in terms of the graphic character designs not improving. And that's something that you can even just compile as a video with just a series of screenshots. Just take several of them and like show them in like different versions or older versions on how that graphic journey has come about. And even if that's not possible, why not start compiling that video now? Anyways, I never understood Life by You to be the sassy, funny brand. I always understood Life by You to be the authentic, let's peek behind the curtain brand that isn't afraid to show us what's going on behind the scenes. Hence the incredible tools built into the game that empowers players to really mod on the spot. These are gameplay features that are not even being touched by your competition, and I think that's a legit choice on their side of things. But I just kind of wanted to mention there that the game features that you're offering is also helping to inform us to understand your brand a little bit better. And whether you want to hear this or not, like, your game is being roasted by the life simulation gaming community, maybe not exactly on your subreddit, even though I've seen some of those posts and they absolutely are, even though I decided not to, not to give more light to abusive feedback, but they absolutely are. They're roasting you guys in different corners there. And yeah, more needs to be done to like really address this conversation because it is turning into a real problem. I do sense frustration here. All right, editor Michael is back. So I just wanted to jump in yet again to add on that I think it would be nice to get some clarity on what aspects of the game Paradox will be working on up until the early access release in March, and what aspects of the game they will be improving upon during the early access period. Specifically, I think that the community really needs to be told on black and white terms when they can expect a jump in quality on the character design improvements and what a timeline for that would look like. Based on the 2023 recap video, to me, seems like it could be a bit of both, but if I'm going to be completely honest with you guys watching, I honestly don't expect any huge improvements on the character design until the early access period. And that the character designs that are being developed as of right now are just being developed and designed to a point of acceptance at this time. Again, those are just my feelings and my assumptions when it comes to character design development and where it stands right now. But let's get back into the video. Looking forward and ahead, I honestly think that there's really only 2 months worth of marketing content that the team has to work with, since the early access version is set to release on March 5th, 2024. As we lead up to the release date, I would like to see the Paradox Life by You team start to communicate more rigidly and specifically what we can expect in the early access version and what they will continue to work on up to the base game release. At the end of the day, I do side with the community, generally speaking, in that the character design is now a problem. I've played the wait and see card, I've played that wait and see game, and now it just feels like The changes are very minimal. I don't think it's what the community was expecting. Even though I'm okay with the graphics, I know that there are even more people out there that are not. And I can see why. The reason why the September early access date was delayed was essentially due to the community kicking off about the character designs. And I can honestly see that happening again as we get closer to this March 5th release date for the early access. It also wouldn't surprise me if the big jump in graphic quality doesn't occur until the lead up time to the base game, but that needs to be communicated to us. Am I still hopeful for the best of Life by You? Absolutely. But we have come to a time where I think that the Life by You community needs a laundry list of what to expect in the early access version launching on March 5th. And what should be at the top of that list is what is the trajectory map for the character and graphic evolution and design going forward? Will that jump in graphic quality occur for early access, or perhaps will that be delayed for the base game release? Again, that is something that needs to be communicated to us, and that's my number one question walking away from everything that's gone on in the last 2.5-ish weeks. I promise this is the last time that editor Michael will be interrupting this video, but before I end off with some questions, I do want to make it clear that by revisiting my foundational understanding of what the early access experience will look like for Life by You, that I think it is entirely possible that the Paradox Life by You team has been prioritizing making the early access game playable along with its editor tools, as opposed to making the game look pretty. Out of all of the upcoming life simulation games out there, Life by You is the one that appears to be the closest to providing a tangible product in the hands of a consumer, and so therefore they have to prioritize stability and function over aesthetic during this crunch time. This would also explain why I haven't been noticing any major improvements to their character designs. Rather, I've really only been observing small changes here and there. In my head, I feel like the team has been needing to make a tough decision on whether or not they need to make sure that the early access game runs properly, as opposed to it looking pretty. I honestly don't think that we will see dramatic improvements to the character design at this time, and rather those improvements will come during the early access playable period. At the end of the day, I think that the Paradox Life by You team does need to communicate when players can expect to see bigger jumps in improvement on the character design. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, I don't necessarily think that the character designs are the problem. I think that it's the lack of communication on the timeline for those character designs is the issue. And again, playing a little bit of devil's advocate here, they might not even know what that timeline looks like themselves. Another thing that I think is also important is that I also think that the community really needs to place more emphasis on the early access playable period, serving as a grounds for experimentation to really shape the base game development that is based on the public's direct feedback while playing the game. I think that I have shared all that I want to share for today, so like I do with all of my discussion videos, I want to end off with some questions. Is the character design a problem now that we are so close to the early access release date? Do you find the character designs acceptable from the latest published videos on YouTube for an early access release? Or maybe you're not worried at all about the graphics? And do you think that Life by You is on a trajectory to release on time for March 5th of 2024? Feel free to drop your comment below with your thoughts. I just kindly ask that you are respectful. And until next time, I just want to thank you for watching. If you'd like to see more videos like this, then feel free to like this video and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Thank you again, and please have yourself a wonderful day.